Blog Talk Radio.
Good evening, everyone. This is Dr. Jess Armine coming to you from the Center for Bioindividualized Medicine here in southeastern Pennsylvania. How is everybody doing tonight? It is a good night. We have a special guest tonight. I think I neglected to tell everyone that I pre-recorded this interview. So you'll be able to listen to the interview tonight. I'll be on the chat room, and I'll be able to answer questions for our guest. But he's not physically here. This is, like I said, a pre-recorded interview because of time constraints. Also, next week, we're going to have Linda Elsegood again, who runs the LDN Research Trust in England. I'm interviewing her this upcoming Friday, and again, that'll be a pre-recorded interview because of the time difference. LDN is low-dose naltrexone, so make sure you tune in next week to find out all the updates. I am going to, this whole interview it's all done, so I'm not going to introduce my guest. It's on the tape, so listen in. This is the gentleman who created the Functional Diagnostic Nutrition certification course. Not only is he an impressive individual clinically, this course is for people who are not physicians. Okay, there are a lot of courses out there. You have to be a doctor to start understanding everything. But this course was made for lay people, nurses, and other types of non-physicians who want to get into doing functional medicine and have a good base. So I wanted you to meet the person who created it. So let's listen in. Let me see if I could do this correctly. If I screw it up, I'll just do it again as usual. Okay. It's kind of typical for me to mess electronic things up. So if you just be patient for a moment. Okay, I should have this done. Okay, so here we go. All right. Good evening, everybody. This is Dr. Jess Armine coming to you from the Center for Bioindividualized Medicine here in southeastern Pennsylvania. How's everybody doing tonight? Listen, this is a pre-recorded interview, okay, so unfortunately you won't be able to call in with questions this time, but at the end I'm sure that our guest will give you a methodology that you can get further information, and certainly you can contact Kristen or myself for further information about our guest and what he has created. I have the distinct honor, and it is an honor, to interview Reed Davis tonight. Reed Davis is a certified nutritional therapist and founder of the Functional Diagnostic Nutrition certification course. If you look at Kristen's name and Jennifer, they have FDN next to their names. Okay, and anybody who's asked me, gee, how can I get a good broad-based understanding in functional medicine, I'm forever sending them to this course. So I was real surprised and very happy, quite frankly, that Reed agreed to do this interview. Reed is known as one of the most successful and experienced clinicians in the world today, having provided functional lab assessment to over 10,000 clients for hormonal levels, bone density testing, adrenal function, digestive problems, immune system and detoxification issues, and many related health problems. His whole health system of natural protocols are now known the world over and have helped thousands of people to regain normal function and health. And we were talking a few minutes before, and you have to know that this guy is not just, and I don't mean just an entrepreneur. He obviously knows his stuff and knows how to, run a course and promulgate it. But he is the real deal. He is a clinician, and you know how I feel about clinicians. Okay, somebody who really knows, who's been in the trenches, who knows how to treat people. That's the kind of people I bring on my show. Okay, and he served as the health director and case manager for the Better Health and Wellness Center in Poway, California. I probably destroyed that name. Okay, for over 15 years, and now teaches a course in functional lab work and holistic lifestyle coaching with over 2,500 trainees in 50 countries. Wow. He's also a clinical advisor at BioHealth Laboratory, where he helps clinicians interpret lab test results and develop natural protocols to restore function instead of just treating the symptoms. Where have we heard that before, people? Okay. Reed lives in Southern California teaching the FDN certification course and helping FDN course graduates build robust practices. Reed, I got to tell you, this is an honor to be able to speak with you. We've talked here and there, but it's a real honor to have you on my show. Welcome.
Thank you, and it's really my honor to be on your show. I'm just a humble servant, and it's just a pleasure. I hope we can help some people. I look forward to working with you, Dr. Armin.
Yeah, and it's Jess, please.
Okay, Jess.
Okay, we're both clinicians, so everybody else calls me Dr. Jess. You can call me Jess.
Right.
Yeah. So everybody, listen, I want you to get a pen and paper. Even though you know this is going to be recorded, you might want to write down some things because I know Reed is going to share some very important information with us. I like to start out usually by asking a little bit about your history, how you got into this, what your passions are. Yeah. My listeners really like to know where you're coming from.
Well, thanks for the opportunity, and I'll tell you as quick as I can. Most teachers like me, they tend to be a bit long-winded, but I came to the health and wellness field from the environmental field. So I took post-grad was environmental law, and I worked in that field, and I had a really good job, and I was helping a lot of the environment, animals and plants and rivers and streams, and we were cleaning up the environment. And I started realizing how bad it was for people. And so I just switched kind of midstream careers. I want to help people. And back before the word corporate wellness was even, known, I was doing corporate wellness. I started working with companies. I left the job, immediately started this corporate wellness program. I want to help employees be healthier so that they can be more productive. And that would help these companies with their bottom line. So I kind of had this corporate background. But then I realized real quickly that I didn't know enough about health to do that. So, and at the same time, Doc or Jess, you'll really appreciate this. My son was going to this Better Health and Wellness Center in Poway, California. And you said Poway perfectly. So it's just basically San Diego area, beautiful area. So my son was seeing a chiropractor. He was a high school athlete. And I started talking with Dr. Vidal there, a beautiful woman with a lot of background and really good chiropractor. And I've known a few. And my mother saw them even when I was a kid, So, we were talking and I was telling her what I was doing and she was just telling me what's going on there at the wellness center. And there was chiropractic and acupuncture and nutrition and all kinds of massage and lots of things going on. This is back in late 90s, so you know what I'm talking about. Southern California, real good, neat place. And I said, well, I'd rather work here. I want to work here. What can I do? So I actually started kind of as a running the place, like a general manager. But she got me into taking classes in nutrition, and we went together. And so, we're talking almost ancient history now. But the more I learned about nutrition and help it, I just realized that instead of doing corporate, I wanted to do the one-on-one clinical work. So I, after graduating from this nutritional therapy program, became a case manager in her office. And because I did have some business background, I started interviewing every person walking in the door. I also started very aggressive, screening and lecturing business, going out and talking to people about this, up in the business park, doing the lunch and learns, and going to grocery stores and going to libraries and putting on talks and all these things. So I was really good at getting a lot of new people in the door, as well as, with my nutrition, being able to kind of a triage in a sense, case manager. So if they needed chiropractic or acupuncture and massage and the nutrition, and I became the nutritional therapist. So that's my background. That's how I got into it. And I could tell you just one more thing, that the way nutrition was being practiced back then didn't really work. I mean, I loved doing it. And I was very, very passionate about in helping people. And yet, I sort of had to, this is, here it is 17, 18 years later, and now I'm doing something different. We've taken that to another level, I'll just put it that way. But that's the short background.
Well, it's obvious you're passionate about what you're doing, and you have a great background. And you did, in fact, take this to the next level, because when you started the Functional Diagnostic Nutrition system, there wasn't really any kind of formalized basic program that people could access. It was kind of haphazard. there were degrees in nutrition. There were, but they weren't really teaching. And the salient word or the operative word is functional.
Mm-hmm.
So you created this system, but I'd like you to tell people what exactly is the functional diagnostic nutrition system.
Yeah, something that was developed over a long period of time of, I don't want to say trial and error, but I started noticing
trial and error is not. Don't be embarrassed. We all trial and error. I mean, let's face it. As long as we head in a good direction,
Yeah, it was. You make some mistakes, you get some breakthroughs, or you get lucky, whatever it is. But what you have to do is you have to pay attention. So that's how I started out, and then I spent 8 years continuing that process of getting people in the door, finding out exactly what their main complaint was and how often it bothered them, how long it was going on, and all the different things they tried so far. And what I noticed was that most people had already been to 5 practitioners. And that just kind of floored me that 5 or some 8, and they'd spent, $1,000 or $2,000 at each place, so they'd all this money, they'd spent all this time, and they really hadn't gotten any results. And so I also noticed that the nutritional therapy that I was applying was of minimal assistance. It, if dietary changes and supplements was what was causing their problem, they seemed to get pretty much better. But there were so many people that, no matter how much diet and exercise they did, they didn't get better. Now, obviously, there was palliation, phases and things like that. But so I started, and I just got lucky, if you will, or the stars lined up the right way, and I met some people who were running lab work. So this is early saliva and urine testing and just sort of the early functional stuff. Dr. Bill Timmons, Dr. Bill Bailey, and some other people. So that's what I started doing. That became my MO, was to, let me just try to get some insights as to what's really wrong rather than just treating the symptoms. And you know where I got that mentality from? It was from going to all the chiropractic lectures. And because, every time Dr. Bedell needed some, the continuing education credits, and then we just liked going to them, on spending weekends, learning from chiropractors, Dr. David Singer and a bunch of others. And so I started thinking that the chiropractic way, which is to not just treat symptoms, to really find underlying musculoskeletal and nervous system damage and all that whole way of thinking, I wasn't doing that in nutrition. In nutrition, I was still sort of applying a take this for that approach. And I just tossed that approach out the window and said, I'm going to align with getting to the underlying cause and condition and trying to do correction instead of just palliation, selling someone supplements and hope you feel better. Anyway, I know I'm going roundabout here, but that's
no, you're not.
So I spent the next
going right down the right.
Yeah, I spent the next 8 years just working on thousands of people, and because again, I was a very aggressive outside lecturer, and you could say marketer if you want, but I was just doing screenings and lectures and talking about the things I was learning, and people were coming in, and they were game because, again, they'd already seen 5 or 8 people, and I said, let's try something different. Let's run some labs and see if we can identify some healing opportunities. And we'd find, when you check the hormones and you start balancing those, and they feel better, but then you notice that their mental state clears up and things. And then when we ran this urine testing for detoxification and liver function and digestion, and we start cleaning those things up, and they got even better. So I just started layering these labs, and I ran labs I probably shouldn't have, just to sort of see what I'd find. But after 8 years of that, thousands of people,
we've all done that.
I broke it down to about 5 labs that I think everyone should run to just identify a whole lot of healing opportunities. Not everyone's good. You're not going to score in every single test, but you're going to identify hormone, immune, digestion, detoxification, energy production, and these kind of factors. And when you get some hard data and you give the person things to do to clean that up, very often it completely resolves their problems. So it's an amazing thing, and that's what. So I had to give it a name to answer your question, and this functional it was all very functional. It was about function. I knew that was the trick, and then nutrition, of course, because I was, can't write a prescription, don't want to, don't do surgery, just it's kind of a nutritional approach. It's really a lifestyle approach. And diagnostic, not in the sense of a medical diagnosis, but more like how a guy who fixes your car, he diagnoses it and then he fixes it, like literally fixes it. So functional diagnostic nutrition just seemed kind of cute.
Well, what I'm hearing, that the way that I practice is, and the way that we would call it now, bioterrain work or foundational work, we're always looking for root cause and downstream effects, and and you're one of the pioneers of looking for root cause, looking to fix the body instead of fixing the symptoms,
Yes.
because symptoms, what can cause nausea? Okay, it could be about a million different things, but if you start looking at the body from a functional point of view rather than a symptom point of view, you're going to start giving the body back its ability to heal. And this is what I'm hearing, that you're the creator of the system that started that. And when you're using various testing and so forth, there's going to be a bit of trial and error in swinging. The pendulum's got to swing in different directions before you find the middle ground. Mm-hmm. The other thing that I find that I'm impressed with your program is that you don't have to be a doctor to learn to engage in this program, do you?
That's correct. I think anybody should be able to learn how the body works and what you can do about it. And the main reason for that approach is that, again, we're not getting out a prescription pad and saying take this for that. There's no medicine, there's no diagnosis or treatment of anything specific, because we work on all the systems simultaneously. And that's because we use my the 5 main lifestyle factors that I found were going to help just about any condition, any problem. So again, there's no diagnosis or treatment of anything specific, but certainly you treat everything in a non-specific way. And chiropractic was a big foundational part of that. Like, there's this innate healing ability in the body, and you want to coach that up in every way you can. And certainly the hands-on and structural thing. And I was watching these kind of almost miracles occur in the office of the doctor, hands-on, and then when you add the energetic with a little acupuncture and massage, some soft tissue thing, and then so I just wanted to take that deeper. And what about the liver and the digestion and detoxification, all the things going on, hormone imbalances, stuff. So it required a lot of study and a lot of testing and a lot of observing. And so my course is largely just my own observations about what.
Mm-hmm. Well, I've looked at your courses, and you've got a lot of good didactic information. I'm going to digress just for a moment for my listeners, and only because you use certain words, and I realize why you use them, but I don't think they know why you're using them. You say that we don't diagnose, that you guys don't diagnose anything. People, what Reed is saying is that that he does not treat infectious diseases. He's not going to diagnose Lyme and treat Lyme. He's not going to diagnose a condition that would be considered a medical diagnosis that would be the province of a medical physician. But what he's saying is that the assessments that occur, without using the word diagnosis, which has its difficulties in a legal sense. The word diagnosis is the discovery of the etiology or the root cause of a problem, which is what we're doing, but God forbid we should use the word diagnosis. And I understand that because we live in a litigious society, so we have to be careful of our wording. Nevertheless, the healing that occurs is occurring from the base on out by giving the body back its ability to heal. In basic, I've been a chiropractor for 30 years, and we learned real basic stuff was, if you just take away the reasons why the body won't heal, the body will heal, And you've taken that to a broad base, a good science, and gave people a methodology to look at those factors and address those factors so that healing can take place. You mentioned a 5-part or 5 paradigm, You mentioned 5 things that you
Sure.
address. If you would like to go into that, I'm
sure.
sure people would be interested.
Well, thank you again for the opportunity. Again,
I'm sorry I yammer.
Well, listen, it's just like I like giving things names. I'm kind of a wordsmith. I love writing and word crafting and that kind of a thing, along with, again, some of my legal training gave me really good research and writing abilities. And I don't want to ever work in that field again, but it just teaches you how to craft words and say things in a neat way sometimes. So, and I like coming up with acronyms because they're very easy to remember. So I was listening to tapes over and over and over again and really trying to refine what it is I'm doing. Like you can't, again, diagnose and treat something specific. Take this for that. Wasn't working anyway. And so I realized it was going to be a total lifestyle program, and of course diet. So anyway, I'll just give you, it's the DRESS system, and you could just label each finger. You have 5 fingers in one hand. You could label DRESS, and you can never forget that. And so it's diet, and the R is rest. Good night's sleep and this kind of thing, and what benefits. I mean, you can't live without good sleep.
Tell me about it.
And
right?
Exercise, you could have guessed the E, exercise. And the 2 S's are stress reduction and supplementation. Now, and I don't have my own line of supplements, and I don't care what people buy or where they buy them, things, but I know a few things about supplements, of course. And so the DRESS program covers everything that a person can do themselves. You can't adjust yourself, you can't give yourself, acupuncture treatments, things like that. But a person has complete control over diet, rest, exercise, most of the stress reduction, and supplements. So anything that isn't diet, what you put in your mouth 4 or 5 times a day, rest, going to bed on time and get a good night's sleep, and detoxifying your brain and your body, exercise, of course, and supplements, anything that isn't those 4 falls under stress reduction. And that would be where a lot of the labs come in really helpful. We can identify food sensitivities. They're very stressful. You can go to a chiropractor and get your spine checked out. If it's out of alignment, that's very stressful. And it might be the result of some other stress, trauma, and these kinds of things. Parasites, bacteria, funguses, viruses. Even there are some, I'll just call them genetic defects, would be also in a sense, a stressor. It's a contributor. This is a word for you. A contributor to metabolic chaos. And that's our, so that's what it is.
It's true.
Yeah. And so there's a balance, and you'll dig this, that, we know people have that. There's vitalism. There's innate intelligence in every cell, tissue, organ, system in the organism, and it wants to be healthy. And so you can use DRESS, diet, rest, exercise, and supplements to coach up those functions. You can support organs and tissue. You can stimulate when you need to. You can just basically substitute for what's missing in food. Food's kind of poor quality. All those things are coaching up vitality. And while on the other side, you're trying to remove like subluxations, or you're removing the parasites and bacteria and funguses. You're removing the foods that someone is sensitive to. So you coach up function while you coach down those contributors to metabolic chaos. And it's just a simple thing, really.
The concept, the paradigm is simple. The practice of it can be pretty complex at times.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's call a spade a spade. You've taken it down to the good basics, to the most important things that are ignored. In this day and age, we have too many specialists and not enough generalists. Mm-hmm. So the specialists are very, very cool at what they do, and they get into their major subspecialty, but they forget about the base, and they forget that the body's not going to work no matter how many antibiotics you throw at it if the immune system's not working, and if you can't absorb your foods, and if you don't sleep, and your immune system is going to just go away, and then that's why people don't get better. And this is why what you do and what I do is very, very successful, because we're identifying and handling what is really the true root cause of illness, which is a lack of function of the body's innate abilities. We'll call it innate intelligence. We can call it whatever we like,
Right.
but it's a name on what it is.
There's programs running underneath and unfettered. They tend to do pretty well until they come up against things in the environment that are deadly. I mean, I don't help people who have Ebola virus. If you got off a plane from somewhere and you're bleeding out of your eyes, you don't call your nutritionist.
No, it's true. And the biggest problem with alternative medicine practitioners, who I consult with a lot, is the fact that they have to remember that, if somebody comes in with a beefy red throat and they have, a massive beta hemolytic strep, or they have, their arm is, has no feeling, it has no circulation. There's a good reason why God made doctors of medicine and surgeons.
Yeah.
They're not evil. They have their place in healthcare.
Amen. Yeah.
So we're tasked with knowing the difference. Okay, making sure that people have had other things done to rule out the worst case scenarios. And they were forever coming in and saying, "Reed, Jeff, I've got all these tests and they're all negative." And I look at them and say, "Good."
Yeah.
They're like, "Good." I'm like, "Yeah, because you've ruled out this, and whatever's left over. If you rule out the impossible, whatever's left over, however improbable, must be the truth, and that's what we're going to treat." And they just kind of look at me cross-eyed, but they get used to my joking after a while. But hey, what can I say?
Well, it sounds like a fun office, a lot like where I grew up.
I love it. You've obviously been around the block, shall we say? Okay, who have been your major influences in the world of health, fitness, and nutrition, if I may ask?
Oh gosh, when I get asked this, I always leave someone out, and I hope they're not. But listen, I'll tell you, I started reading like Royal Lee and Weston Price and Melvin Page and the old guys, Francis Pottinger, and read all those things. And then the more contemporary guys like John Lee, MD, with the saliva testing of hormones, the sort of out of the box guy. Jonathan Wright and his book Why Stomach Acid is Good for You, and all this kind of reading and research. And then, met and worked with personally. Dr. Bill Timmons was pretty influential. He started BioHealth Laboratories, and but others like that. And Dr. William Bailey, who is to this day our medical director, he's just a wonderful person. He's a DO. He also has a what we call medical acupuncture doctorate. He's got a nutritional doctorate. He's got just tons of experience. He actually did his residency with Jonathan Wright up at the Tahoma Clinic, and I've talked to Jonathan Wright about Dr. Bailey. Was he really that smart back then? Well, listen, Dr. Bailey, actually, we always say it's not rocket science. Well, he was a rocket scientist before he became a DO. So it's a weird thing. You got a guy who is fair, just really fair about everything and honest about everything, and has supported me in a really neat way. Just from the day he walked in the office, I think he humored me at first, and then saw that I was actually an honest researcher and trying to do some good in the world. So he decided to sort of back me up. And people like that, Bill Wolcott, of course, is the guy who is really sort of the father of metabolic typing, the way I understand it. And then in chiropractic, Dr. David Singer taught me an awful lot about going out and lecturing and screening and having the courage to stand up for what you believe in. And to this day, I use some of his ways of explaining how the body works and things like that are very, I've adapted them to my nutritional lifestyle approach. But lots of guys like that. Again, I know I'm leaving someone out.
No, they'll call you tonight.
Yeah, right. It's
again, let's digressing just a bit. Only because this is interesting for me also. I know because I'm asked quite often. I have a lot of patients and colleagues, some who are nurses, herbalists, and so forth, and they want to get this broad-based functional approach. So I'm going to ask you to go back and explain the FDN course, kind of give an overview of it. How does someone get involved in it? What is it? what is the certification? Give them an idea of what doing. You know where I'm going with this.
I think so. And I'll try to follow along. So I've been doing this a long time, and everyone kept telling me you should be teaching others, because I was out in the community doing as much work as I could, lecturing, and I would lecture to 20, 25 people, and every single time I did it, I'd get 5 or 6 new clients. And they'd come in the office, and then the chiropractor would see them. And so this was a wonderful way of building a business and doing some good in the world. And I knew that at some point it just became apparent that, I need to deputize other people and teach them how to do this for themselves, because I can only ever see so many people. And if we're going to help change health and the way medicine's viewed in the world and things, I better start teaching. And so in 2008, I held my first class. It was a 2-day two-day seminar where I stood up in front of 20 people and went over 600 slides.
Wow.
So but you want to know what? 19 out of 20 said that's the best 2 days I ever spent. That you really poured it out there, and I just put everything I knew onto slides and then went over it, and because I had the system and things. No, that was 2008. So here we are. And of course now it's this kind of huge 6-month program. It's online. There's 10 modules. There's mentorship. There's, it's been really well thought out. And basically, I've everyone that's ever taken it, and it's well over 2,500 people now, I've got their feedback. What can I do to improve it? How can I make this easier to understand and learn and think? Because I'm a pretty plain-spoken guy. And I can take complex information and put it in plain English, because I spent 8 years as the lead patient educator. I had to look Mrs. Smith in the eye and explain stuff to her. So I started there, and since then it's become quite a course. So you can sign up, register. You don't have to be anybody special. I mean, I certainly love chiropractors and acupuncturists who haven't been exposed to this kind of thing to take it. But mostly I have health coaches, nutritionists, dietitians. We have a lot of personal trainers, and I'll just say the professional but not licensed type person, who wants to be in business or is, and wants to improve the depth of their work and the scope of the work. You can make a very good living doing this. I've certainly created that model as well. So for the individual, and some of my graduates, they're out there doing some heck of a good work and doing very well for themselves. So
I know I've hired 2 of them.
Yeah, that's amazing. Good. I know. Well, I happen to know that you have 2 of the best, and but they're all good. I mean, with people finish the program, and it's not a weekend course anymore. It's a lot of weekends. It's 6 months of weekends. You can do it in 6 months worth or less worth of weekends. Maybe 4 to, if you spent 6 hours a week for 6 months or so, you could get through it. And you could also go through faster. It is self-paced. So if you wanted to crank it out and go through quicker, you can. But most people have lives and things. So, and you learn through the webinars, all the materials that I teach you everything I know. And you've got mentorship. So you actually run some labs on yourself. You run some labs on a couple other people. Grab your either a couple clients or get your mom to do it. But you got to run some labs on yourself. You got to run some labs on a couple people, and you practice explaining it to a mentor. We do a role reversal kind of a thing, and it's really, you can call it an immersion type process. And there's quizzes, there's exams, there's a final exam. I've sort of modeled it after what I know about chiropractic and naturopathic. The final exam's kind of a doozy, to tell you the truth. But I want to make sure that when I say you're certified to say FDN, that you actually know a thing or two, and that you also have some confidence. So we have plenty of support and that kind of stuff. I think that's what people like about us.
It's what I noticed about interacting with FDNs. Generally, they're asking me about genetics or some advanced diagnostics, but and that's okay, because it is a broad-based course, and it has improved and refined over the years. So your certified FDNs are really, very, very well trained.
Mm-hmm.
They know how to go about things. They know where the limitations are, and everybody should know that.
Yep.
That the most dangerous person out there is someone who does not know their limitations. I know my limitations, and I've been in practice over 40 years, in different facets of healthcare. And let me tell you something. When I hit something that that raises the hackles on the back of my neck, I have no problem referring them. The most dangerous person out there is somebody who doesn't know what they don't know. But you make sure that they know what they know, and they know when it's proper to refer. And that's a very important thing. You've talked a little bit about when somebody becomes an FDN, they consult with other people. They're able to do lab work. They're able to do certain levels of treatment. Is there, it sounds to me like they're treating all the basics of how the body begins to work using the DRESS paradigm.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so obviously you can't teach everybody everything. Okay, so what's in the future?
Yeah, it's a really good question. Well, people have inquiring minds, as you know, and at the end.
Sounds like the New York Times. Sorry.
Yeah. Well, I don't have all the answers. What I have is a model that will work with probably 80% of the population. But then you come up to those people where you do need to go deeper. Well, there's people like what you're teaching, and there's other courses and things. So when I say people have inquiring minds, people seem to have this desire to learn more, desire to help people at deeper levels, a broader spectrum of clients that they can take, and we certainly do that. Almost anything that can be handled with behavior, like diet, rest, exercise, stress reduction, and supplements, if that doesn't get it, if that doesn't make people an awful lot better, and I'm talking about people just who have been previously diagnosed. We have people with fibromyalgia and chronic fatigue and irritable bowel, and I'm talking about these labels that have pretty much cursed them to a lifetime of just treating symptoms and watching those symptoms get worse and worse, and where the medicine needs to get stronger and stronger until they're cutting parts out. So FDN will handle that. But when it comes to maybe some of the genetic things, that no one was talking genetics when I started doing this back in 2008. And I personally believe that only about 8% of what's going on with your problems are genetic. The rest is epigenetics. So we cover the epigenetics. The epigenetics is the expression of cells, and when you definitely can only, again, the DRESS is the answer for that. But knowing I don't teach the like you do, the 23andMe and the methylation and things like that. I do consider that to be, it's another contributor to metabolic chaos, but it's an inborn one. See, those inborn errors of metabolism, I call them vital voids, just like they're weak links in metabolism. We discover those through our process that, hey, there's still something else going on. So if you can handle about 80% of the population and get them to a point where they're way, way, way healthier and obviously much happier, and creating happiness is really what it's all about, then their needs are met and your needs are met because you perpetuate your business. You get a lot of referrals, you make a few bucks and things like that. But so when it comes to this, hey, there's a vital void or weak link in metabolism or something going on there, what is the other level? Well, that is where sometimes you need a physician. And that's what your program's about. That's where, hey, look, there might be some diagnoses required. They're coming up against those kind of, again, weak links or problems. Well, that's why we work so well together.
The interesting thing is you say about inborn errors in metabolism and more genetic expression. the way you're treating people is the way of the world now. They've already gone through, let's treat the polymorphisms, let's treat the genes. You can't treat the genes.
Yeah.
You can treat genetic expression. How do you treat genetic expression? You treat it foundationally, which is just a big fancy word for exactly what you're doing with DRESS. Okay? So that's why you can get 80% of the people out there better, and the other 20% are the ones that require just a deeper look, because there's something that's keeping them from getting better, and it may be microbial, it may be something that needs someone that is used to dealing with the more complex, more twisted, if you will, complex.
Sure. The inflammatory processes and things that are really complex, and thank goodness there's that level. I mean.
So I understand, though. Are you going to, you have the basic FDN course? Are you going to be? Do you have seminars or more advanced training that's in the offing at the moment?
Plenty of it. We actually have some established lessons in neurotransmitters and advanced hormones and environmental pollutant panels and urinary metabolic profiling, heavy metals, and things like that. We're right now creating a CBC chem panel course for the layperson to understand what's going on, and again, more work on the epigenetic side. What are the lifestyle things I can do to improve here, and then small intestinal bacterial overgrowth, and lots of other things. We have a menu of a good 16 different subjects. We're introducing new labs and stuff, but it's all going to be with the same holistic mentality, and we're actually defining, I think, the line that you don't cross. Like you say, know your limitations, know when that person needs to get checked. Like I tell my trainees and grads all the time, look, this could be spinal and musculoskeletal. They need to go see a chiropractor. Why are you leaving that out of the built up trauma, injury, poor posture, weaknesses? That's something that is contributing to metabolic chaos just as much as their yeast infection. So you've got to go get that checked out, refer out. And there are people that we recognize have some energetic problems. I do like acupuncture for certain things, and so we're fulfilling a tremendous need that I think everybody needs. And then within your population you're dealing with, you're going to find people that have the history of trauma and what have you. You're going to find people that have the energetic problems. You're going to find people that have the methylation and genetic weak links that need to be checked out properly and assessed and then supported in a way that works within our lifestyle program.
You're describing to me the creation of a generalist, somebody who is knowledgeable in many areas and can put it all together. And that's what's needed, necessary, and vital in today's society, because we don't have that. And you're training people to do that, which is wonderful, which is one of the reasons I'm so impressed and so happy to have you on the show today.
Thank you. And one last area,
sure.
Because I noticed that people, there's mental, emotional. Let's admit it. There's so much stress of other types. Like I'm a lot into the physical stress and the chemical and biochemical stressors. Remember, I came out of the environmental law background. I know what I've studied the environment and chemicals and the damage that everyone put on us. But this idea of mental, emotional, it's another area that I'd like to get my arms around, something that would fit really perfectly with us. You might actually have some ideas. I do like EFT, the Emotional Freedom Technique, the ACEP. I joined the American College of Energetic Psychology, and I've taken some of their classes, but I don't really have my arms around that component as much as I'd like. So I think the future is just great for a lot of network building.
there's no one practitioner that can handle everything. It's too complex. And you mentioned the mental emotional. There's neuroemotional technique. There's EMDR. And then within the psychology, cognitive behavioral therapy, and so on and so on and so on and so on. And there's indicators of when to use certain things, that can interrupt the trauma circuits and so forth and so on. And you rightfully say that the whole mental emotional area will damage the body just as much as microbes and toxins. And Robert Navarro, in his paper on the cell danger response, which is real big these days because he put everything together, showed very clearly that the mental emotional damage can damage the cell just as much as those other factors. So if you don't deal with them, and it's the stigma that's attached to mental illness these days is prodigious. So people are afraid, and people do not want to admit, and they won't treat. But that can be the major damage. And we're not just talking about, PTSD. We're talking about chronic stressors, which can be psychological, physical, but mainly in the psychology range. Let's face it, we live in an excitotoxic society. Okay, there's we're gonna get it. Okay.
The expectations we're putting on kids too, and the way they're growing.
Exactly.
They're not
well
the same
said.
kids that we were. I mean, we didn't have a care in the world when I was growing.
Mm-hmm.
And
I agree.
Yeah.
I think George Carlin said in one of his routines that kids should be given 3 hours a day to be kids.
Yeah.
Not everything so horribly structured.
Yeah.
I think that has a lot. That has a lot to do with the levels of excitation / anxiety / OCD / ADD / ADHD / everything that we're fighting these days, and then you're throwing medicines at, and you don't even know what the heck you're throwing medicines at. You still practice, yes?
I have a few clients. I don't take on very many now because I'm teaching, but I've been referring a lot of people to graduates. Yeah.
I'm glad to hear this, that you still have your feet in the trenches.
You know what it is?
Okay,
It's the when I started back in really I was 2001, 2, 3, 4, 5. Really in the nitty gritty of it in the office, learning and laying the foundation things. I made some great relationships with people who still call me. They just they got my number. Something came up. Can I ask you a question? You know what? I don't even charge them anything anymore. I just handle them. I tell them what to do, send them a kit or whatever, and then I'll go over and they'll make me lunch, and mostly it's these older women that just seem to trust, and I wouldn't break that, and that's kind of keeps me humble, keeps me in the mix.
Mm-hmm. Keeps it green, so to speak. And trust in your healthcare practitioner is so primary, because we don't trust our healthcare practitioners anymore, and they have not given us reasons to trust them.
Yeah.
And if you don't trust what the doc says or the practitioner says, to use a broader term, and they don't take the responsibility of communication, so they explain it to you. So guess what? Okay, that person's not going to heal because they're going to be filled with doubt, filled with stress, and that's going to cancel out whatever you've done. You've had a long, glorious career so far. What has been your most rewarding moment in the well-being industry? What stands out as being something that brings a tear to your eye?
There's a couple of things. Now, obviously, I had those cases that were turning points. I love to just recall people that ended up in tears because they thought that they reached the end of the world there, and we did what I consider to be a few simple things, and it turned their entire life around, or their children's. I remember a principal calling me up and saying, what'd you put Billy on? It's not what I put him on, it's what we took him off of, and things like that. And then, I just have, as you do, story after story after story, case after case after case of people whose lives were changed, and they're happier now. And when you make people happy, if it doesn't make you happy too, then there's something wrong with you. So that, and then now it's just sort of multiplied by the people who graduate, and I interview every single course completion. Their last thing, more or less, is to have an interview with me, and I want to get their feedback. What can I do about the course to improve it? Just tell me about yourself and get to know them a little better, and what's the future hold, and how can I continue to support and help you, which is where our postgrad program develops out of. But when people tell me that they came to FDN course and were really searching for something just like it, actually, a lot of people can't believe that we even offer all of that training to a lay practitioner, and that now they can help themselves, or they have helped themselves. They've did sort of these miraculous turnarounds, or their first client was their mother, and my mother had this, and now she's much better. So it's just kind of a continuation of what we expected. We found something that works, and when you teach other people to use it, and I think it's just generalizations like that.
It's a beautiful thing. When you see people practice what you've taught them, and they come and tell you their stories about how they got this person better, that person better, or how they made this big gestalt and say, I found this and no one else was able to find it, and I treated that, and this person who had been ill for many, many, many years started getting better. We all have people. If you've been in practice long enough and you care, you're going to have stories like that, and it makes all the work worth it. It really does.
That's
right.
And
two things. How would somebody go about becoming an FDN or accessing? Is there a database that they can go and say, hey, I'd like to at least consult with an FDN, not really wanting to take the training myself, but I have a problem that I think might be helpful by somebody who's trained like this. How would they go about doing those two things?
Well, I'd probably just give you my website, which is functionaldiagnosticnutrition.com/learnfdn. And so that's a page that will take you to, what's the school all about, but there's a link on there that would take you to, a drop-down menu. It says practitioners. You'll find, you just kind of have to snoop around on there. So if you go to functionaldiagnosticnutrition.com/learnfdn, you'll get a warm welcome. And, we don't have any hype or try to pressure you into anything. We are really interested in growing. Obviously, we want to expand our reach to the public. So I can only reach so much public myself. I need to deputize as many health coaches and nutritionists and personal trainers and what I call the lay practitioners as possible to do this work. And they will learn how to help people. And we'll also teach you those limitations, the borders, the guidelines, and things, so that you're doing this in the right way. And with my many, many years, I assure you that we know what we can do and what we can't do. And
it's a beautiful thing. Yeah. It's a beautiful thing. People, and at the bottom of Reed's bio that he gave me, he's got a phrase which I really like. It says, "I am not a guru, and neither are you." Okay, that's someone who knows himself and doesn't need to have the guru status. Just remember, people, when you follow a guru, you take on their limitations also. So that's why gurus don't work out very well. And you can tell that Reed is the kind of man that keeps learning and learning and learning, and more than that, keeps sharing. Okay, and that's what makes him a great healer and why his people are. Reed, thanks so much for being on the show tonight. I really appreciate it. I know you're taking time out of an incredibly busy schedule. I will make sure that that when I play this on Monday night, that that I publish the websites and so forth, and so they can get in touch with him. And I'll have them contact me if they have particular questions, and I'll forward those questions. I'll forward them over to you, or they can get to your website and then ask you questions specifically.
Thanks very much, Jess. I will tell you, I'll never be too busy for you. How's that?
All right, I appreciate it, brother. Thanks a lot, man.
Take care. Have a great night and a great weekend.
You too. Bye-bye. Well, there you have it, people. The interview with Reed Davis. an amazing man. I think you would do well by www.fdninc.com, which is the FDN main website. You'll be able to read any questions. If you have any questions, if you're in the chat room, okay, you've got something quick to ask, please go ahead and type it out. I'll be happy to try and answer whatever questions. I'm very impressed with the FDN course. As you know, my assistants are FDNs, and we've just started utilization of functional diagnostic nutrition health coaches as part of our offerings here at the Center for Bioindividualized Medicine, and it's working out very, very well. People are getting more attention and better attention and higher level attention because we all work together. And these people are very, very well trained, and of course they consult with me on every case, as well as me doing the major investigation and diagnosis and treatment plans. Anybody who is interested, whether you're a professional or non-professional, in getting into functional medicine, this is a very good way, and it's something that should be considered. It's also a career choice. It's something that you can actually create a career, and that's a wonderful thing. There's not too many people out there who are willing to take the time and effort to be generalists. Okay, that's what I've been trying to teach doctors to do, and it's slow going. But a lot of doctors want to be able to figure out what is wrong these days, why everybody is so ill all the time, and sometimes it's just a matter of learning how to take a history. But you do need the basis. You do need the scientific basis to do this type of work, and FDN is one great way of doing it. Okay. Thank you for your attention tonight. Like I said, next week we're going to be talking with Linda